The Invoice Audit feature within EasyLoader is aimed at reducing invoicing errors by automatically reviewing a specific customer's invoicing requirements and alerting the user if something is missing before invoicing the load. So let's go ahead and start at a customer profile. Right here we've got the soccer store. And let's look at what the different settings and requirements are that we can set up for this particular customer. We're going to move down to the accounting section, and we want to pay attention to the invoice settings and requirements card. Here's where you can set up your different requirements, such as a proof of delivery. Maybe you need a carrier invoice number, or maybe a PO number before you go and invoice this customer. So again, this is specific to the individual customer. It can be changed on a customer by customer basis and will apply to all loads for this customer. Now, how does a load get to the Invoice Audit page? Well, once we have a load delivered, when we go to upload a delivery document, such as a proof of delivery, here within the document section, you're going to see the system is going to try to push the user to change the status. And what's going to happen is the invoice audit logic is going to run. It's going to go look at that customer profile and all the invoice settings and requirements that have been set up. And it's first going to go, hey, does this customer require the invoice audit? If the answer is yes, it's going to go ahead and encourage you to change the load status to Invoice Audit and put it on your Invoice Audit page. If you do not hard require the Invoice Audit, it's then going to look through the other requirements. In this case, I require POD, and I'm going to make sure I prevent duplicate PO numbers. And it's going to go, hey, do we have all the other requirements met? If the answer is no, it's also going to move it to the Invoice Audit page to alert you that something is missing. Now, if you don't require the invoice audit, and this load just happens to have all of the set requirements met, it will skip the invoice audit page and go ahead and move on to the invoicing step. Now, let's go ahead and move a load to the invoice audit and jump over to the invoice audit page. Once a load hits the invoice audit page, it's going to fall into a number of categories. We're going to focus on the three main categories today. That is loads with invoice issues, loads with missing requirements, and loads with no issues. Now let me go ahead and point out a couple informational pieces here. You can see we have a number of I buttons as well as notes. Red I buttons are going to indicate critical missing information. In this case, we don't even have the billing information to bill this customer. Or maybe it's something more minor. In this case, the carrier payee factoring company email is missing. But a big thing we want to pay attention to here is the notes. This is going to really let us know what's going on and what we need to accomplish to be able to approve this load for invoicing. Let's start with this top category. Loads with invoice issues. Now, what would be an invoice issue? Mainly, that's going to be that we have submitted a carrier a POD invoice request form from EasyLoader. The carrier has uploaded their invoice and typed in the amount that they are invoicing for. And if the carrier happens to enter maybe some other cost or just in general a carrier invoicing amount that is different than the carrier rate we have saved in our load profile, the system is going to consider that an issue and say, hey, check out this audit. We need to see what's going on here. And you can see when I hover over the notes section, we see that the carrier invoice amount is different. So what do I need to do to solve this? Well, first of all, I can see I'm missing a POD, which is one of my requirements for test customer one. And again, I've got an issue here. The carrier is telling me that they're invoicing me for an amount that's different than the saved carrier rate. So let's go hop into this load right here into the audit. Over here, we can see the details of what the carrier has submitted to us through that POD invoice request form. Looks like I originally had a carrier rate of 500, but looks like they're trying to hit me with some detention here. So how do we solve the issue? How do we make these two numbers match? Well, to be able to get past that point of the audit process, we need the total cost to match the invoice submitted amount. So there's two ways to go about this. Maybe I've called the carrier and I've convinced them that we don't need to pay them detention. Well, I can just hard code a 500 here, change that 650 they submitted to 500 so these two match, and then I could approve for invoicing. Now, maybe that this is very valid and I do need to pay some detention. So I need to update the carrier rate in the load profile. And I can do that right here from the audit modal. I'm going to click on detention. I'm going to add my $150. And maybe I'm going to pass this cost on to the customer as well. So let me update that customer rate so that my invoice amount here at this next step when I send my invoice to the customer is correct. Now, I also know that I'm missing a proof of delivery on this load. I saw that in the notes section. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go ahead and upload a proof of delivery to satisfy that requirement as well. Let's mark that all proof of deliveries are uploaded, and I can now approve this for invoicing. And there you go. We've solved that load. Now let's move down to the loads with missing requirements. This means, hey, the carrier rates already match, but there's something else missing here. So let's look at this one. What do we have? We have a missing PO number. So same story. Let's click our edit action. We can see we've already got our carrier rate and the invoice submitted amount matching, but we're missing a PO number. So let's go ahead and type that in here. All PODs are uploaded, and let's approve that one for invoicing as well. Well, let's make sure we click our save first. And now we've got that PO number saved, and we can approve that for invoicing. Okay, the final category is loads with no issues. So this would be a scenario where you've got to require the invoice audit set up at the customer profile level. But when you uploaded that delivery document, the logic went, hey, they require the audit, so let's go ahead and put this on the invoice audit page. But all the requirements were already met for that load to be invoiced. We weren't missing anything, and there was no difference in the carrier rate and the invoice submitted amount. So all we need to do is approve these. And we can quickly do that by selecting our checkboxes here, either individually or as a group. And let's go ahead and click approve. Now that we've cleared out our audit page for what we want to accomplish today, we can go move on to invoicing. And here you'll see all the loads that we have just approved on your invoicing page for the next step of sending it to the customer.